just gonna start this review by outright stating the conclusion. Sonic Generations is my absolute favorite game of all time. It's just about as perfect a modern Sonic game as you can get. Between its amazing level design, its fantastic physics, its super tight controls, all on top of some of the most detailed and passion-filled environments in the entire franchise, naturally as a Sonic fan, it's the ultimate package in my opinion. Of course, I understand that this game isn't for everybody. Some hate the boost formula, some don't think the level design is good, some just prefer to play the other games, and overall the fans just seem to agree that this is one of the better ones. Not like it has much competition. While this verdict is quite frankly valid, I'm gonna go over why it's my personal favorite game of all time. So first of all, wait, do you hear something? Ow!
Oh.
Hey, get off of me!
Oh, sorry.
Hello, random Typhlosion. Who are you and what are you doing here? This isn't a Pokemon video. Not that I'm complaining, though. Any Typhlosion is welcome on this channel.
Thanks. Where exactly am I?
You're in my house. You just dropped in from the sky onto my set.
Is that what happened? That's weird. 1 second I was sitting at my computer writing a script for a video game review, then suddenly I heard the Phantom Ruby, the next thing I knew I was falling.
Huh. That is weird.
Yeah. Hey, wait a second!
What?
You're me!
Huh?
You're a Cyndaquil who stands in front of a Green Hill background, wears an Ethan hat and a cross necklace, and has the ability to open his eyes comedically wide into perfect circles for the sake of expression. You're definitely me.
Wait. If you're a Typhlosion claiming to be me, are you me from the future?
That's what it looks like.
Why are you here?
You tell me, you're the one writing this episode.
Well, I was just starting a review of Sonic Generations, our favorite game of all time. Maybe you're here to make a gimmicky tie-in to the game's time travel plot.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah, so basically, I was just about to go into detail about how all the little details in this game add up to create what is literally the best Sonic game of all time in my opinion, and wait.
What?
So if you're me from the future, then you know what my tastes are from this point in time in my life until yours. Please tell me that Sonic Generations is still my favorite game of all time. This is important, because if my future self does not feel that way about the game anymore, then I cannot claim it's my favorite of all time anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. Sonic Generations is absolutely still our favorite game of all time. In my time, no Sonic game has even come close to its level of care and quality.
Wow. Okay.
What?
Well, it's good that Sonic Generations still holds up amazingly well all those years later. But, if it's true that no Sonic game ever comes close to its level of quality ever again, that probably says a lot about the future of the Sonic franchise in a negative light, which also kind of makes me lose hope in the series going forward.
Oh, whoops.
Anyway, let's move on and get to the review.
Yeah, good idea.
So, as I was saying, Sonic Generations was created as a celebration of the series' 20th anniversary. Building off of the gameplay reboot of Sonic Unleashed, which was tweaked to be tighter in Sonic Colors Wii, this game once again uses the boost formula, which has been tweaked once again to be even tighter and more responsive.
Yeah, I remember back when Sega actually cared about the detail and quality in their games.
This game came out just after the first Dark Age ended.
Exactly. But even in the first Dark Age, Sega actually cared about what they were making with fresh, new, ambitious ideas. In your time, the most recent game was, what, Sonic Forces? That game was treated like garbage by its developers. Look at Green Hill and Generations compared to Green Hill and Forces. On the surface, they look about the same, but the core gameplay and overall presentation of the Forces version was completely butchered. Like, look at those environments in that bland level design. Everything looks so lifeless and dead and completely devoid of creativity and passion.
The Green Hill and Forces is supposed to look dead.
But they could have done so much more to sell that idea!
Anyway, that's a subject for a completely different day. This is about Sonic Generations.
Right. Sorry. Going decades with unbelievably mediocre Sonic games made by Sonic Team really ruins a Sonic fan's outlook on how the games are made.
Can we just get back to the Sonic Generations, please? Get your mind off the bat and help me talk about the amazing.
Fine. Now, as my younger self was saying, this game was by far the most refined version of the 3D Boost physics engine. Not only were the physics tweaked to be more comfortable, but the core gameplay of the boost was tweaked as well. In Sonic Unleashed, the boost meter filled as Sonic red rings. In Sonic Colors, this was changed to the white wisp capsules and the random white wisps found within the badniks. The reason for this change was likely because of Sonic Colors' unbelievably blocky, slow, and precise level design. Having rings charge your boost meter in that game would fill it pointlessly, and more often than not would lead to scenarios where the boost would absolutely yeet you out of the course if you were to use it. Finally, in this game, with the level design emphasis being put back on more smoothly flowing and speed-heavy level design, they allowed rings to fill the meter once again. They also brought over the random badnik idea from Sonic Colors, but in this game, it's any enemy you destroy. It's no longer random.
This is also the first and only Sonic game where the boost meter starts the level completely filled. No longer did you need to wait a couple seconds to grab a ring or a white wisp capsule to boost in this game. You can just launch yourself the second the word go appears on the screen if you so please. And my gosh, is it fun!
Of course, that's not the only gameplay style in this game. I'll let you take over for this one.
So alongside the best controlling 3D boosting gameplay in the entire series, this game also introduces a second gameplay style. Well, I say introduces, but in actuality, it's the return of an old playstyle. Everyone say hello to Classic Sonic! Because this game was made with the sole intention of celebrating the series' history, Sega decided it would be a great idea to bring back the gameplay of the very first Sonic game. And while the gameplay isn't exactly one-to-one with the original Genesis games, you can't roll down slopes to gain speed anymore, that's a bit of a minus, it is still super satisfying to play. It has an excellent feel for the momentum-based physics of the classic series that it's known for.
Something that you failed to properly express in your initial Sonic 1 and 2 reviews. You said the focus was on speed. While that was true for the marketing and gameplay appeal, the true fun came from mastering the momentum to earn that speed.
Anyway, moving on, there is something interesting of note about Classic Sonic's gameplay. Since he starts out in Green Hill, the very first level of the very first game, and given this game's time travel plot showcasing the series' entire history beginning to end, it's heavily implied that Classic Sonic is the Sonic from Sonic 1. The odd thing about that is that Classic Sonic already knows how to use the Spin Dash, a move that was introduced in Sonic 2. Not only that, but later on in the story, it's revealed that Classic Tails is here too, despite Sonic not knowing him until, once again, Sonic 2. So is Classic Sonic from Sonic 1 or Sonic 2? If he is from Sonic 1, then how does he already know the Spin Dash and Tails? If he's from Sonic 2, then why was he in Green Hill?
Maybe he's from after Sonic 3 and Knuckles and before Sonic Adventure. At the end of the game, Modern Sonic shows him how to do the homing attack, and then he starts to try it out for himself. The first time we see the homing attack, if you don't include that special shield from Sonic 3D Blast, is in Sonic Adventure. What if Sonic learned the homing attack between the Genesis era and the Dreamcast era because of this game?
Okay, I love me a good bootstrap paradox, but that's a little far-fetched. I ask again, why was he in Green Hill? Also, no, that doesn't happen, because this game causes the timeline split that results in the parallel universes of Sonic Mania and Sonic Forces. After Robotnik heard about the many defeats of Eggman at the hands of Sonic, he went back and tried new plans, thus unearthing the Phantom Ruby off of Angel Island and initiating the events of Sonic Mania.
It was just a thought. Besides, this is not a Sonic timeline discussion, this is a review of Sonic Generations.
Man, we just keep getting sidetracked, don't we?
Some things never change.
So, yet another thing that's interesting about Classic Sonic's gameplay is just how frickin' broken the Spin Dash is in this game.
He means that in a good way, like overpowered, not broken in a bad way like glitchy like Sonic 06's Gems.
Right. So yeah, in this game, having a fully charged Spin Dash will absolutely yeet you across the stage. Compared to the Spin Dash of the Genesis games, there is no contest. It's almost like the boost in a way, except you're not invincible as you go forward and you get stopped by platforms much more frequently. It is super fun to do in the hub world when there's no obstacles on the ground. 1 second you're in front of Green Hill, then bam, you're in front of the final boss.
Oh yeah, let's talk about the hub world. So Sonic games don't very frequently have free roam hub worlds. Discounting Sonic Boom because, yes, there have only been 4 Sonic games with free roam hub worlds. Sonic Adventure, Sonic 06, Sonic Unleashed, and this game. In this game, to accommodate classic Sonic's entirely 2D gameplay, they designed the hub world entirely in 2D, so it acts more like a level select than anything. Actually, yeah, that's exactly what it is, since this is the only 3D Sonic game, save Lost World, without a level menu. This hub world merges the two ideas seamlessly.
Now, if you ask me, hub worlds do not belong in 2D. For the most part. If they're simple and make it easy to access the levels, then I'm fine with it. If they're really complicated with too many platforming challenges required to just reach the levels, then I absolutely hate them.
We're looking at you, Sonic Advance 3!
So this game actually takes an interesting approach with its 2D hub world. As I stated previously, all of the levels are laid out nice and linearly for you, with nothing stopping you from just walking between them. Easy! However, there's more than just the main levels. Over each main level gate, there are 5 optional side mission gates, each holding 2 missions, one for Classic and one for Modern. These mission gates do require some fancy platforming to get to at times, but since they're optional, I can let it slide.
Well, they're optional for the most part. Hidden amongst the mission gates are 3 boss keys, one for each main level. The way you obtain the boss key is by finishing at least one mission. You need all 3 keys from each area to access each area's boss. This is where exploring the 2D hub world comes in.
Alright, I forgot about that.
Oh, and the mini-bosses.
Ah, right, the mini-bosses. Much like the main bosses, there's one for each area, and they're found among the platforming challenges that correspond to the level from their debut game. Except Metal Sonic. But that one gets a pass since Sonic CD isn't represented in this game aside from the Metal Sonic fight.
Thank goodness!
So instead, the Metal Sonic fight is found over the Sonic 2 level, which actually makes sense. Sonic 2 was the first time we ever saw a robot replica of Sonic in the form of Silver Sonic. Yes, I know Sonic CD canonically comes before Sonic 2, but in terms of player access, we had Silver Sonic first, so Sonic 2 is technically the debut of Metal Sonic. Good on you, Sega, for acknowledging that connection.
So, we gonna start talking about how the game progresses like we usually do?
Yeah, sure. So, as I stated previously, this game is all about Sonic time traveling through every one of his past main series adventures. What more obvious way to start a romp through Sonic's history than by—
You don't need to be all subtle and hinty about it. We've already mentioned Green Hill at least 3 times now.
Right. Well, anyway, we start out in classic Sonic's version of Green Hill Zone. And my gosh, is this area gorgeous! You can tell just from the first screen that the developers of this game put so much time and effort and care into bringing Green Hill into life in fully rendered 3D. The detail and passion just get even more apparent and lovely as the game goes on, providing things like caves and unique waterfalls to really sell home the idea of this being a real place. Oh, and can we talk about this level's take on the Green Hill theme? My goodness, this is easily the best version of the Green Hill theme ever, in my humble opinion. So basically, what they did is they literally took the Genesis original, quite literally, if you listen close enough, you can hear the original unedited Genesis version in the background, and they layered higher quality instruments and synths on top of it. Sure, it sounds lazy, but my gosh, do they make it work. It really adds to the life of this area.
Then, moving on to the modern Sonic version of the level, this is where the game gets really kicked into high gear with the first taste of the boost formula. The level design has excellent flow, even in the slower segments. There's also a couple points they added where things happen all for the sake of flair.
Not Team Flare. I don't want to accidentally make that connection again.
And there's our mandatory Team Flare reference for this video. Anyway, like there's this giant chopper that appears and destroys the grind rail behind Sonic, and my gosh, does it never get old to watch. It comes and goes and doesn't overstay its welcome, and it even gives you a trick opportunity at the end.
Now, if only Sonic Force's big flare moments were as brief as that. Those things really overstay their welcome.
I thought you said we wouldn't be talking about Sonic Forces.
Sorry, sometimes I just can't help myself with the comparisons. Sonic Forces had so much potential to be as good as this game, but it just hit all the wrong notes in all the wrong ways.
Now it's my turn to say, please get back on the subject. This is about Sonic Generations.
Sorry.
Anyway, back on track, the music for the modern version of Green Hill sets the bar really high for the rest of the remixes used throughout the game. Since the simple synthetic music doesn't really fit the high-speed moment-to-moment action of the boost formula, or really modern Sonic in general, they decided to amp up the speed of the song and put huge emphasis on the electric guitar, a la Sonic Adventure. And my gosh, I love it so much!
The song remixes being amazing is going to be a recurring theme through this video, by the way.
The next level is Chemical Plant, the second level from Sonic 2.
You know, that actually kind of forms a neat pattern. The first level is the first level from the first Sonic game, and the second level is the second level from the second Sonic game.
This is the only time in the entire game that this pattern appears.
Oh, right. Well, anyway, This game is the very reason that Chemical Plant is my favorite zone from Sonic 2. Once again, the graphics are near perfectly recreated in 3D with a ton of passion. The level has a beautiful sense of flow that perfectly replicates how the original felt. And while, no, you can't roll down slopes to gain momentum anymore, not speed, momentum, I will never let my past self live down that error, holding forward on the analog stick down the slopes is surprisingly just as fun. And no, I'm not joking. When something as simple as holding forward on the analog stick is surprisingly fun to do, you know that they absolutely nailed the gameplay physics. Literally, this game is the peak of modern Sonic physics, and this level is the perfect place to feel it.
You, gonna talk more about Act 1, or are you too busy geeking out about the physics?
Sorry. I just had to say somewhere in this video how great the gameplay physics are. It's one of the biggest reasons this is my favorite Sonic game, and my favorite game of all time. It's like Mario Odyssey and Zelda Breath of the Wild levels of satisfying gameplay physics.
Well, I mean, you're not wrong.
Oh, speaking of which, how great did Breath of the Wild 2 turn out?
Really? You're asking this now?
Sorry, future and whatnot. I just really want to know.
I can tell you when we're done with this video. Let's get back to Sonic Generations. Chemical Plant Act 1. Finish your thoughts so I can talk about Act 2.
When did we agree to split our discussions between acts?
Okay, you're done. Time to talk about Modern Sonic prompted this level.
What? But... Fine.
So in Act 2, things get ramped up to 11 once again. The music is actually slower this time, but with a ton more detail. The level itself twists and turns all over the place to really bring back the feel of the helix-shaped tube pathway seen in both the original and this version's Act 1. And near the end, the level freaking explodes as Sonic runs through it. I have no idea why it explodes, but it's so cool to watch that it just fits so perfectly.
Maybe it exploded from the sonic booms that Sonic created as he ran through it. I mean, it's pretty obvious that modern Sonic is like 10 times faster than classic Sonic. Maybe the facility's integrity was able to handle the speed of classic Sonic just fine, but couldn't stand a chance against the modern speed.
That makes sense, I suppose. Got any other last minute thoughts before we move on to the next level?
Why are you suddenly taking control here? Both levels have the same rising water trap from the original game. And this is the first level where we see that modern Sonic can run on the surface of water if he's boosting. And Act 1 has some neat dynamic camera angles on the tube thingies. Then Act 2 takes the tube thingies and turns them into a big water slide and freefall section. Also, in the background of the Act 1 results screen, you can see the pillars of smoke way off in the background, which could be interpreted as the aftermath of the explosions that modern Sonic caused, making the levels feel like they're happening at the same time? Oh, and the music for Act 1 is once again the original song with stuff layered on top of it. But unlike in Green Hill, where the newer instruments are always there, Chemical Plant's music starts out with the simple addition of some pretty loud drums. Then it crescendos and adds more instruments and excitement as the song goes on. That's a detail that I'll never stop loving, especially since the drums at the beginning are really satisfying to hear.
The next level is Sky Sanctuary from Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Now, as you might recall from my review, that game experimented with storytelling through interactive cutscenes and things happening to the environment mid-level. Sky Sanctuary happened at the very end of the game, where the Death Egg was launching back into orbit, as seen in the background at the beginning and the end of the stage. This was beautifully called back to in Sonic Generations by...
I haven't done a review of Sonic 3 and Knuckles yet.
What? Right. Sorry. I forgot I was in the past for a minute there.
It's all good. Besides, you do bring up a very important aspect to this level. As he was saying, this level is a beautiful callback to its source game. While that game only had the Death Egg launching in the background at the beginning and the end of the level, in this version, the Death Egg is always there in the background, launching egg robots at you, constantly reminding you, hey, this is happening, go stop it. Also, I just love the 3D model of the Death Egg used here. It looks even better than it did in Sonic 3 and Knuckles.
Oh, and can we talk about how spectacular the use of 2.5D is in this level? All throughout this level, and this game in general, but it's really noticeable here. You have classic Sonic constantly bobbing and weaving his way through gameplay planes, further adding to the replayability and exploration that this game offers to classic Sonic's levels. That, and the super dynamic use of the camera, really helps bring these areas to life by making them feel far more expansive than just the 2D plane that they're playing on. I'm gonna put a link in the description to someone else's video where they explain this all way better than I ever could.
Don't you mean I will put that link in the description? I sure hope you're not hoping to hang around here in the past once this review is done.
We're the same Pokemon. Saying you'll do something is no different than saying I'll do something, and vice versa. Also, this voice is hard to maintain consistently, and this video is getting far too long. we need to move on.
What?
What?
Moving on. Now that we've reached the end of the first area, it seems like now is a good time to talk about the bosses.
Hey, Editor Camo here. I am doing post-production on the video, and I have only just now realized that I accidentally skipped Sky Sanctuary Act 2. Whoops! Yeah, it's a pretty good level. Got a nice flow to it. Yeah, it's fun. One of my favorites, actually. Yeah, that's all I had to say. On with the video!
As we said before, this game is split into areas, with each area representing a different era of Sonic's history.
I would make a pun out of that, but area and era are already easily interchangeable when talking about this game, so I'm not even going to try.
This game has 3 total areas, excluding the area dedicated solely to the final boss. This first area we've been in this whole time is, rather obviously, the Genesis era. The bosses they chose for this area are The Only Good Thing About Sonic CD, don't at me, and the final boss of my favorite Sonic game from the Genesis.
Otherwise known as Metal Sonic and the Death Egg Robot.
Right. So, first of all, the Metal Sonic fight takes place in Stardust Speedway Bad Future for some reason, which implies that Sonic CD's bad ending is the true ending. I realize that the good ending is absolutely brutal to get in Sonic CD, which is one of the many reasons I hate it so much, therefore the bad version of this fight would be more iconic, but still.
Also, the music is a remix of the Japanese version song.
Anyway, as for the fight itself, where the original fight from Sonic CD was just a race, this fight is a proper fight. Metal Sonic attacks you with various different moves, and you can only attack him during the cooldown time between each of his attacks. Dr. Robotnik isn't chasing you constantly with a laser in this version, so instead they prompted to destroy the level as you run! Holy crap, that makes this fight 10 times more intense!
Honestly though, since it's the first boss fight in the game, it's not too terribly hard. Well, I say that, but really I'm just so good from playing this game for nearly my entire life that I can beat him in less than a minute even on hard mode.
Same here, dude. And I've only been playing for about half my life. Actually, not even that, just under half my life.
Anywho, the true boss fight of the Genesis era is the Death Egg Robot from Sonic 2. After getting the 3 boss keys found at the side missions, the 2 Sonics meet briefly through a window that they each think is a mirror.
For some reason, I mean, come on, you two! Do you not see that you're completely different heights, different shades of blue, and have different eye colors?
Then Classic Sonic makes his way into the fight with the Death Egg Robot.
We get another cutscene that shows Sonic encountering the thing. Then when we cut to the gameplay, holy Colossus, Batman! Why is it so huge here?
Yeah, for real! In the original version of this fight, the thing was only like 3 times Sonic's height at most. Here the thing is like 10 times his height, at least.
Insert Dynamax joke here.
So the fight begins, and it starts out almost identical to the Sonic 2 version, with just the obvious size difference of the robot itself. Oh yeah, and the inclusion of rings, which a lot of people complained about for some reason.
Yeah, for real. Like, what were you guys expecting? This is the first major boss, and you wanted to have the same level of brutality as the original final boss? New players would still have barely any idea what they're doing. Do you really want to go that brutal that fast?
So if you know the original fight, you might be wondering, wait, how the crud is Sonic supposed to hit that thing's chest when it absolutely dwarfs him? Well, the answer is simple. He doesn't.
This version of the fight changed the position of the weak spot. It's now the butt of the robot instead of the chest. And whoa, what a weak spot it is! One whack to that area and the colossal robot completely faceplants. And actually, funny story, I played this game before I played Sonic 2. So when I eventually got to the Death Egg Robot in Sonic 2, I assumed the weak spot was the butt, which led to a ton of confusing deaths on my part before I figured out the chest was the true weak spot.
So you hit him a couple times in the newer weak spot, then the true fight really begins. In the second phase of the fight, you're on a set of platforms around the giant robot, where he tries to attack Sonic with his spike hands.
Why does that sound so familiar?
The way you defeat him is by making him lock onto bombs that you make appear by standing on these buttons. Once he hits a bomb, he becomes stunned and you can rail grind up the arm to bop him on the head. Do this twice and you win, even in hard mode.
So after the fight, we get a cutscene of Eggman getting abducted by the same monster that sent the 2 Sonics to this weird time void. Well, we hear Eggman, but all we see is a weird vortex thingy. This is important.
Hey, dude? I just realized that we haven't mentioned why the Sonics are in the Time Void yet. Nobody watching who hasn't played the game knows what you're talking about. We didn't even gloss over it, we just straight up skipped it to talk about the existence of the levels.
We did? Great. Sonic Colors all over again.
Like, I realize that the gameplay is the most important part of a game, but the story is important to explain the character motivations, why they are where they are and such. Explaining it sooner would help me avoid awkward situations like this.
Hey, it's fine. You write these things so the thoughts come to you. Now let's briefly explain the opening and move on.
Okay, fine. So basically, Classic Sonic is here because a mysterious monster appeared while he was running through Green Hill. Cut to modern day, where modern Sonic is having a birthday party with all of his modern friends, when the same monster crashes the party and sucks all of Sonic's friends into weird portals, while knocking out Sonic. Then there's a cut to an unconscious Sonic in this weird white void. How he got there, we have no idea. He wasn't sucked into a portal like one of his friends, he's just there. Then Classic Sonic also pops up somehow.
Okay, now that we're caught up on the story, at the end of the Death Egg robot fight, the same monster appears at the wreckage and swoops up Eggman. Then Classic Sonic goes back to the Void to meet his modern self, as well as Classic and Modern Tails.
Genuinely though, where the heck did Classic Tails come from? Modern Tails was at the birthday party that the monster crashed, but Classic Tails was nowhere to be seen while Sonic was in Green Hill.
Well, anyway, the Tails tell us that they're traveling through time and space, as if that wasn't obvious enough. Then the monster appears and makes the second area accessible.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't be obvious to newer players. I don't know how far into the future you're from, but surely you haven't forgotten that we were completely clueless the first time through, right? This was our first Sonic game, and all of the "aha, I remember that" moments came from playing the original games. They needed some way to explain to newer players that this is a trip down memory lane. What better way than by the brainy character?
Okay, fair point.
So anyway, the next area represents the Dreamcast era, with the levels being Speed Highway from Sonic Adventure, City Escape from Sonic Adventure 2, and, Seaside Hill from Sonic Heroes? That wasn't a Dreamcast game.
Let's put a pin in that thought for now. We'll get back to that when we get to that level.
Sure, why not? So basically, this is where the game gets kicked into high gear. Speed Highway is where modern Sonic unlocks both the Lightspeed Dash, which can only be done on specifically marked rings for some reason.
Which is a very strange change for the rest of the series, and even into the future, this is the only game that restricts what rings you can Lightspeed Dash on. Such an odd design choice.
And the move that single-handedly makes me enjoy this game far more than Sonic Unleashed, the Drift. You see, starting with Sonic Unleashed, Sonic has had the ability to make sharper turns by holding the right trigger, which makes him turn into a drift. The thing is, it hardly ever works in Sonic Unleashed, at least for me. Whenever I use the drift in that game, he makes the turning animation, but continues straight. Like, what's going on here? Am I doing something wrong? Is it a timing thing? Am I just too used to the Generations drift? I have no idea!
Then, in Sonic Colors, due to the boost button being the right trigger because of the lack of buttons on a Wii Remote, the drift was changed to replace the boost in specific areas, similar to how the analog stick caused quick-stepping in specific areas of that game as well.
Then finally, in this game, they changed the control back to that of Sonic Unleashed, but now they made it much more boost-friendly. The drift in this game is super tight, and it's guaranteed to get you around every turn, every time, especially while boosting.
Also, I just love the animation used in this game. In Sonic Unleashed in Colors, he just sort of leaned harder into his turn and skidded his feet. In this game, he curls up into a spin ball and leads hard into the turn. I love the squash and stretch used on the ball in this animation. It's also a fantastic way to implement the ball form back into Sonic's base moveset after switching to the boost formula.
Anyway, as for the Speed Highway level itself, it's a lot like the Sonic Adventure version, so there's not much else to say about it here. It's got that big loop at the start, and the small yellow platforms, those construction scooper thingies that spin around a fixed point and launch you to a new path, and it even has the set piece of running down the massive building. Also, this level's second act starts out with a fully unique animation of Sonic giving a thumbs up to the camera. I've always loved that so much.
Unfortunately, Classic Sonic doesn't get as much love in this level. That's to be expected though, since we're beyond the Genesis era, but still.
Whoa, hold on! Classic Sonic still gets plenty of love in this level. For example, let's talk about the music. So, up to this point, we've been hearing the original Genesis songs with higher quality synths piled on top of them for classic, and hard rockin' remix jams for modern Sonic. Now that we're beyond the Genesis, it's now modern Sonic's turn to recycle his music. There's hardly any difference between the adventure and the modern versions of the Speed Highway theme, but classic Sonic, meanwhile, gets an entirely original techno remix that features Genesis-like synths. I said Genesis-like.
Again with the forces bashing? I thought we liked that game.
I do, but I mean, come on. Forces tried the whole Genesis remix angle thing with its classic music too, and while it's definitely unquestionably a Genesis sound font in that game, whoo boy is it used horrendously. As a self-proclaimed Genesis music connoisseur, I definitely say that they should have gone the route of this game where the synths sound only somewhat like a Genesis.
I doubt it would have helped. Now can we please get back to this game? You know, the good one?
Sorry, just let me say one last thing about Sonic Forces, then we'll move on and never mention it again in this video. With the overabundance of nostalgia pandering in this game, showcasing the entire series' best moments, it was highly likely that this game would get entirely lost in the nostalgia and have no substance as a standalone game. That was thankfully not the case, and we ended up with one of the greatest games of all time. Then we take a look at Sonic Forces, and yikes! It parallels this game in so many ways, but it's in all the wrong ways. It's like what Splash Dash says in the video you linked earlier. Sonic Generations is a game that feels confident in what it's doing. It's taking you through Sonic's past, and it's gonna have fun while doing it. Meanwhile, Sonic Forces is the perfect example of what could have gone horribly wrong with Generations.
Man, I wish we were as good at wording our thoughts as that. Okay, now that you've gotten that out of your system, let's get back on track.
Okay, so the next level is by far my favorite level in the game, City Escape from Sonic Adventure 2. First of all, the song that goes with the level is just as much of a bop as ever. Heck, I'd argue that it's even better in this game.
The classic remix or the modern remix?
Yes.
Ah, I see.
So a bit of background info, the melody of the song that plays in City Escape has a striking similarity to the melody of a lesser known stage from Sonic 3's multiplayer, Endless Mine. In the classic remix of City Escape, they decided to homage that similarity by auto-tuning the second verse to be identical to Endless Mine, and I love that!
But that's nothing compared to what they did for modern Sonic. See, for classic Sonic, they just took the original version of the song and quite literally remixed it in the more traditional sense of the word. For modern Sonic, meanwhile, they actually brought back the original singer and completely re-recorded the song from scratch.
And not only did they re-record it, but in said re-recording, they actually extended the song. Now the song has a new bridge at the end.
But even better than the new bridge is the incorporation of a very familiar guitar riff just before it.
You just read my mind! So, I've never said this about myself before, but my favorite lyrical song in the entire Sonic franchise is the Sonic Adventure 2 version of It Doesn't Matter. That song is, coincidentally, from the same game as City Escape. When they decided to extend the song, they made the best decision they could have possibly made and put the opening riff of It Doesn't Matter near the end of the song!
And what's better is that they didn't just carelessly tack it into the song. They incorporated it so seamlessly that if you didn't know it came from It Doesn't Matter, then you wouldn't even notice. Now that is nostalgic Easter eggs done right.
I swear, City Escape had by far the most passion put into its musical remixes.
Okay, now let's talk about the level itself.
So, for Classic Sonic, this level is by far the most active with its use of 2.5D, as there's an alternate path you can take right at the beginning that can be seen in the background.
That's, all you're gonna say?
Nah, I just wanted to keep you on suspense. So, you know how in the original City Escape, Sonic gets chased by a giant truck at the very end of the level for like a minute? Yeah, so how about you take that concept and make the entire level around that? That's right, Classic Sonic gets chased by the truck through almost the entirety of his act. But the truck doesn't just chase behind him, oh no. That thing is constantly harassing Sonic by going in and out of his gameplay planes, often appearing in the background several seconds before it reaches Sonic. Not only that, but whenever it does reach Sonic's plane of existence, it actually affects the level by destroying platforms! Now that is 2.5D at its finest! They take full advantage of the 3D space in this level, unquestionably more so than even the rest of the levels.
Okay, calm down there, dude. You're about to burn down the set from the heat your fire is creating in your excitement.
Then, in modern Sonic's act, the giant truck doesn't appear until the end, just like the original version. But when it does finally appear, it has giant freaking buzzsaws now. Like, what? I don't know who at Sega was crazy enough to come up with that idea, but holy flamethrower attack, I am glad they did.
Okay, we get it. You love this level. Calm down.
Don't even get me started on the background Easter eggs! All throughout the level, in both acts, there are posters hung, just like in the original Sonic Adventure 2, that are just the perfect kind of subtle fan service. Among other things, there's a billboard for chili dogs, some posters for Chow in Space 2, and my personal favorite, wanted posters for Bean, Bark, and Fang, and missing person posters for Mighty and Ray. Those character posters are so subtle that you can play the level hundreds of times without seeing them. It's such a small detail that they didn't need to include at all, but the fact that they did just proves the passion that the developers had in this game.
Was I always this over-the-top excited?
Sorry, just, oh man, I love City Escape so much. If you want to see a level that undeniably shows the developers' love of the source material, City Escape is the level to visit.
Okay, now that episode is done, it's time to move on to the next level, Seaside Hill.
Sure, but first, let's pull that pin back out and talk about the Dawn fan in the room. The fact that this level is part of the Dreamcast era, despite not being a Dreamcast game.
Oh, yeah, I almost forgot we wanted to talk about that.
So, as we stated previously, this area is represented by Sonic Adventure, Sonic Adventure 2, and Sonic Heroes. Sonic Heroes, rather obviously, didn't debut on the Dreamcast like the Adventure games did, so why is it part of the Dreamcast era?
Well, it's more likely that this area is meant to represent the games on the 6th-gen consoles, Xbox, PS2, and GameCube, rather than just the Dreamcast. I mean, think about it. The Sonic Adventure games were also on these systems. There's also the fact that this very game, Generations, came out on the 7th generation of consoles, the Xbox 360 and PS3. So it was much easier to divide the 3D games between the, at the time, 2 generations of consoles that they spanned.
Okay, that makes sense, I guess. I was more so thinking it was because Sonic Heroes was the last game to have proper continuity with the adventure games, since Shadow the Hedgehog was technically a spin-off, Sonic 06 was a soft reboot, and Sonic Unleashed was a full-blown reboot after that.
Maybe it's both. Both explanations line up so seamlessly that it practically makes it a no-brainer to split the eras after Sonic Heroes rather than after Sonic Adventure 2.
So then, why is this era called the Dreamcast era?
Got any better name ideas?
Well, no, but...
Exactly. Why wouldn't they name it after Sega's last console in celebration of the entire history of Sega's most beloved franchise?
Okay, fair point.
So, getting back to Seaside Hill, Act 2 is by far the most open level for modern Sonic, while Act 1 is one of the most platforming-heavy levels for classic Sonic.
Personally, I'm not particularly fond of Act 1, but wow is Act 2 fun to explore! Act 2 is the closest we've ever come to an open-world boost formula Sonic game, and it feels great! There's so many parallel paths that can be taken, each with their own obstacles and skill challenges, making it so no two experiences with the level will ever be the same.
Oh, this level is also where there's by far the most emphasis on water segments, specifically in Act 1. That's also a big reason I don't enjoy Act 1 so much, since it's near impossible to avoid the water sections. In any other level that has water sections, it's possible to skip them with good skill and timing, but not here.
Overall, though, Seaside Hill is excellent at portraying its source material. Act 2 opens with an identical camera angle to the Sonic Heroes version, and there's a whole segment dedicated to the trolley that the team drives, or you can take an alternate path where you platform on the backs of giant turtles. Also, this level is the only level, aside from arguably Sky Sanctuary Act 1, where there's a level gimmick that's entirely optional. That gimmick, of course, being the aforementioned trolley. The Sky Sanctuary gimmick is the flying spinning tops from Marble Garden, in case you were wondering. Also, the process you take mid-level to decide whether you take the trolley route or the turtle route is also really unique. I'll leave you all to figure that out for yourselves if you decide to play it. Also, when you choose the route, the music changes from Seaside Hill to Water Palace. Overall, Act 1 is meh, but Act 2 more than makes up for it.
And now we move on to the boss fights of the Dreamcast era, which I unfortunately don't like all too much. Let's start with the mini-boss against Shadow.
Okay, right off the bat, I'm gonna give this fight huge points for its introduction cutscene. It is a perfect recreation of the SA2 battle intro cutscene, and my gosh, does it look amazing!
Then when you cut to the actual gameplay, it's something, that's for sure.
So, this fight takes inspiration from the final battle between Sonic and Shadow in SA2. In that original fight, it was literally the characters fighting each other as they ran towards the Eclipse Cannon, with each hit making the enemy AI smarter at avoiding your attacks. That was admittedly a pretty clunky fight, all things considered, but hey, every character v character fight in SA2 was clunky in some way, so whatever.
This version of the fight is a race. No, it's not a race to the Eclipse Cannon. In fact, the track for this fight is an infinitely looping circle. This race is instead to catch a weird energy or thing that's constantly flying away from Sonic and Shadow. If Shadow manages to grab it twice, the game literally just becomes Sonic Dash for a bit. Literally, look at this. This is just slower Sonic Dash. I realize that he's probably using Chaos Control or something to slow us down or whatever, but still, it's not fun. Even his big attack at the end is just a sidestep to dodge.
If you manage to get 2 of the orbs, however, the game becomes the opposite of Sonic Dash. You need to change lanes and impact the obstacles to send them flying towards Shadow. By the way, I know that visually Sonic is performing like his most powerful speed boost ever, complete with a completely different colored boost aura, but wow is this segment slow. Literally, Sonic is moving at a fraction of the speed he moves when just holding the boost button. I don't know why he's moving so slow here, but it's a big gripe I have with this part of the fight, especially since the visual flair makes it seem like Sonic is being supercharged and going beyond his normal limits.
Overall, this fight is really repetitive and boring. I don't hate this fight, mind you, it's just one of the weaker ones. I mean, come on, was Sonic Dash really the best they could think of for Shadow's ultimate attack when they had a massive arsenal of chaos powers for Shadow to use? Also, sometimes it feels like the orb is stingy with how close you need to be before you can grab it. I've had countless times where I could have sworn I was close enough to grab it, but then it just wouldn't grab, and then Shadow would yeet in from out of nowhere and yank it from me.
I swear, this fight has so much missed potential, and it's pretty frustrating at times. Thankfully, this is one of the very few times you'll hear me say that about anything in this game.
And now we move on to the major boss fight of the Dreamcast era, Perfect Chaos.
Okay, I'm gonna be honest here, I was never a big fan of Chaos. I don't know, it just never clicked with me, just like most Sinnoh Pokemon. So that's immediately some points docked from my opinion on this boss fight.
I mean, to be fair, it's not like they had much choice. All the other major bosses of this game are based on final bosses, and the only final bosses of the Dreamcast era were Perfect Chaos, the Bio Lizard / Final Hazard, or Metal Madness / Overlord. They obviously can't do Metal Madness / Overlord, since they already used Metal Sonic for the Genesis era. The Bio Lizard / Final Hazard wouldn't work because the Bio Lizard was fought by Shadow, and the Final Hazard takes place flying in outer space, which would require a complete gameplay overhaul for one non-final boss. Perfect Chaos is the only thing left.
What about the Egg Emperor from Sonic Heroes? I think that could have made a pretty good boss fight.
Well, they probably wanted to save an Eggman mech for the modern era, partially for a bit more variety, and partially for a reason we'll get into later.
Fair.
Oh, also, both the Bio-Lizard and the Egg Emperor were bosses in the 3DS version of Sonic Generations. Not entirely sure why the 3DS version went that direction with its boss selection, but if you want to fight those, get the 3DS version and knock yourself out.
Oh, right. Man, the 3DS version of this game is weird. I mean, that game was meant to be a celebration of Sonic's handheld history, which should have meant games like the Advanced Trilogy, the Rust Duology, maybe even the Game Gear games. And yet there was only one handheld level in that entire game, that being Water Palace from Sonic Rush. Also, for some bizarre reason, they decided to represent Sonic Adventure 2 with Radical Highway, which is a shadow level? So not only did they represent games that were unrelated to the history they were trying to represent, but for one of the games in that lineup, they chose a level that Sonic didn't visit and a boss that Sonic didn't fight. What the heck were they thinking?
Well, at least they had the Burst Wisp in the Tropical Resort. That was a handheld exclusive Wisp until Sonic Forces.
That's true, I suppose.
Hold it! This isn't a review of the 3DS version. You're just procrastinating talking about the Perfect Chaos fight. You haven't even played the 3DS version.
And you have?
Possibly.
Note to self, buy 3DS version of Sonic Generations once this video is finished.
There you go.
Anyway, enough sidetracking. It's time to talk about Perfect Chaos Fight, which is my absolute least favorite part of the entire game. But that's just me. Whenever I have a long binge session of playing the entire game, I almost always skip the Perfect Chaos Fight.
So, in the original Perfect Chaos fight, Sonic was supersonic, and all he did was charge toward it at full speed while dodging Chaos's tornadoes and lasers. I personally prefer that version to this version.
In this version, Sonic is in his base form. Instead of charging head-on into Chaos, this time Sonic has to do a ton of platforming to reach Chaos, often going through the same areas multiple times. Also, interestingly, this is the only boss fight in the entire game with checkpoints in it. I'm serious. It's so strange how there's checkpoints in here, but no other boss fights. Did they think that this fight was too difficult or something?
I don't know, there's just something about this fight that I don't particularly enjoy participating in.
Also, the remix of Open Your Heart could have been better. I was never that big a fan of the original to begin with, though, so there's that.
I will admit, though, that the model used for Perfect Chaos in this game is top-notch.
Fun fact, this is what Perfect Chaos was actually supposed to look like the original game before the technical limitations caused them to derp its character design for its model. Before this, we'd only seen its true look in the pre-rendered stuff of Sonic Adventure, the big mural in Sonic Adventure, and the Sonic Adventure arc of Sonic X. This was the first time we were able to see its look in gameplay, so props for that.
Now, with the Dreamcast era out of the way, let's get caught up on the story. After Seaside Hill, it's revealed that the weird monster has been tearing space apart and dropping the areas into this dead white limbo. The areas come back to life as the Sonics run through them.
Interesting that they give us the story motivation for gameplay after over halfway through the game.
What about saving Sonic's friends, which happens after every time a level has both acts finished?
Oh, come on! You know full well that Sega and the writers didn't care about the friends.
They are very much an afterthought in this game's almost non-existent story.
Oh, come on now! Don't you dare start another side tangent about the writers Ken Pontac and Warren Graff. You've already gone on enough rants about the miscellaneous corners of the Sonic franchise. Besides, at this point in time, they've already been laid off. Just wait until you see what the next writers they hired do.
Wait, are they actually good? Like, do they actually understand the fundamentals of the Sonic franchise?
I can't tell you.
Why not?
Well, for one, I don't want to disrupt the space-time continuum by telling you the future. That and the fact that this script is being written before Sega's even announced who the new writers even are.
What?
Anyway, back to the story of Sonic Generations. After the Perfect Chaos fight, the monster appears again and brings a dead white Chaos Emerald along with it. It tries to grab it, but to no avail. To which Tails observes that Sonic can bring the Emerald back just like he brought back all the areas and side characters.
If you're wondering where the other 6 emeralds are, you get them from the bosses. So that's 3 from the mini-bosses, 3 from the main bosses, and then the last one from finishing all the main levels in the game.
So now we move on to the modern era, which represents the games that were released on the same generation of consoles as this one, hence the name Modern.
The levels used in the modern era are Crisis City from Sonic 06, Rooftop Run from Sonic Unleashed,
And, Planet Wisp from Sonic Colors. Great.
You got a problem with Planet Wisp?
More like Sonic Colors overall.
Well, get used to it. You're going to be seeing a lot of it in the near future.
What?
Anyway, the first level in the modern era is Crisis City from Sonic 06. Now, I know at first it might seem kind of odd for them to acknowledge Sonic 06, but it does allow the game to round out to a nice clean 9 levels with 3 per area.
Also, speaking of that, it definitely seems weird to realize that there were only 9 main series games before this. The Master System games, the Game Gear games, the Advanced Trilogy, the Rush Duology, and the Storybook games were all side games. On top of those, there were tons of spin-offs. All that stuff really covered up the lack of true main series games until this game revealed the truth.
Man, I miss when Sega made as many spin-offs and side games as Nintendo.
Anyway, regardless of how including Sonic 06 rounds out the series, don't you find it odd that this level is technically taken from the future rather than the past like all the rest?
Really? That's what you're focused on? Not the fact that Sonic 06 as a whole, including Solaris, was erased from the canon? If Solaris didn't exist, then the Flames of Disaster catastrophe would have never happened, thus Crisis City wouldn't have happened. So not only does it not make sense for the area to be from the future when everything else is from the past, but it also doesn't make sense since those events were erased from the canon. It also doesn't make sense for one other reason that we'll get into later.
Oh yeah, that's another big timeline discussion that this game could bring up. Why do I never see people talking about it? At least not nearly as much as stuff like Stardust Speedway Bad Future implying the bad ending of Sonic CD to be canon.
Anyway, timeline issues aside, again, let's talk about the level itself.
Okay, well, Act 1 is pretty underwhelming again. Not a bad level, but could have been better.
You know, now that I think about it, the most underwhelming levels are in the modern era. I can't help but wonder if that was intentional.
Probably a coincidence. Anyway, the level itself is fine. There is something interesting that happens near the end of the level, but I'm gonna keep it vague so as to not spoil what it is. It's probably the biggest surprise in the entire game. I do like the remix for Act 1 though. It's one of the most Genesis-sounding songs in the entire game.
Also, near the end of the level, there's this annoying stop-and-go mechanic thanks to the giant fire tornado that comes and goes.
While the tornado is active, it pulls you towards it. That's another reason I don't like this level so much, because the tornado's pull really messes up the physics and is very annoying to deal with.
Thankfully, Act 2 is one of my favorite levels in the game. First of all, the level itself has excellent flow. Secondly, this level introduces the stomp move and puts it to great use. Once you have the stomp move, if you're airborne, you can drop down almost instantly and continue your level flow. This level uses it by breaking boxes and lowering platforms that are suspended by pillars of lava. Finally, my favorite part of the level, they actually had the audacity to reference the Mach Speed section of the original level.
Thankfully, it's not the original janky way of playing where Sonic is constantly running and all you can do is steer him. In this version, they turned it into a long quick-stepping section that has a shocking number of alternate routes in it. But they did manage to keep the spirit of the original Mach Speed section alive, because you do need to be paying attention for objects flying towards you straight ahead, and wow, is it fun!
So for Crisis City, Act 1 is meh, and Act 2 is beyond fantastic once again.
Which brings us to the next level, Rooftop Run from Sonic Unleashed.
I'm just gonna go ahead and say right now that Act 2 is one of my favorite levels in the game, and that it has a very similar vibe to the original Unleashed version. This version and the original are so similar that you could probably swap one out for the other, and not much would change about the experience in either game.
Also, this level is a great way to compare the physics and speed between Generations Unleashed. From my first-hand experience, I can say with 100% confidence that Unleashed is faster, but Generations has tighter controls.
The music of Act 2 is a slight downgrade from the Unleashed version. They removed the electric guitar almost entirely and replaced it with emphasis on the piano and violin. It's not a bad version of the song, far from it. I just prefer the version with the electric guitar.
What's really interesting is how they treated Act 1. First of all, Classic Sonic spends a huge amount of time in the giant barrel cellar that was only seen in the Werehog level of Rooftop Run, which is definitely an interesting choice. Not only that, but after the cellar, the entire rest of the level is spent scaling the giant clock tower. Apparently, there are a bunch of random platforms and ramps on the sides of the clock tower all along, and we just never saw them before. I do appreciate how they managed to make the laser shooting robots work in 2D, by making their lasers stop by walls and platforms, forcing Classic Sonic to bob and weave his way around them. Interesting stuff. Also, the level ends with Classic Sonic changing the time on the clock and causing the clock face to just pop right out and crash Eggman's blimp, which is, interesting.
So, does the clock face always pop open when it strikes noon? If it doesn't, why did it do so this time? Also, what were all those badniks and mines doing floating in front of the clock face? Also, why was Eggman's blimp flying by the clock tower anyway? It pops up at the end of Act 2 to fire the massive shoop-de-whoop lasers at Sonic, so is Act 2 before Act 1? Or did Eggman just happen to have multiple red rectangular blimps with his emblem on them?
Honestly, given his vanity and his army, I wouldn't be surprised if it were the latter. Actually, question. Where does he even get all the resources to make and program his army? As someone who's studying robotics in college, as of the writing of this script anyway, I would know firsthand that you need to get those resources from somewhere.
Was that a pathetic attempt at a segue into the next level? The one where Eggman is taking over and mining an alien planet?
Maybe?
Wow, that was bad.
It was probably about the same level of quality as the level we're about to talk about.
Yeah, unfortunately, the ordinary levels of this game kind of end on a sour note.
The next level is Planet Wisp from Sonic Colors. Oh boy.
Hey, at least it's better than the actual Planet Wisp from the actual Sonic Colors. Well, Act 2 is anyway.
Alright, let's get this over with. So, Act 1 is nothing special to write home about. The one notable thing about it is that it involves the pink Spike Wisp, which actually makes genuine sense. The pink Spike Wisp gave Sonic the ability to spin dash in Sonic Colors, and classic Sonic's whole thing is spin dashing, so at least that's a positive.
Oh, another positive. The pink Spike Wisp is actually a lot easier to use. In Sonic Colors, it was genuinely pretty janky to use. In this game, with half of the already existing physics being tuned to the spin dash, they managed to make it control just a hair better.
And another positive, they made the pink Spike Wisp more interesting to use. In this version of Planet Wisp, there are these giant gears that are attached to trails, and by using the Spike Wisp, you can make them move, often slightly changing the platforms to advance the level. Unfortunately, the level design for Act 1 is completely jank, and very often it's nearly impossible to know which way to go, which is probably why they needed to put a bunch of arrows all over the environment.
Also, the Planet Wisp remix for Act 1 doesn't sound all too great in my opinion. Like, I don't know what they were thinking, but it just sounds so flat and awkward compared to the original or the Act 2 theme.
Assuming you can even hear it, that is, considering how much of the level is spent in the Spike form, complete with the very annoying Spike Wisp music. Overall, Act 1 is my least favorite regular level in the entire game.
Thankfully, Act 2 is a fair improvement. Not an amazing improvement, but an improvement.
So, you know how in the original game a ton of people were complaining about the lack of natural areas in Planet Wisp? Like, how basically the entire zone is spent in industrial areas? Yeah, that was a bit annoying, especially since the opening cutscene showed Planet Wisp as a beautiful, natural paradise. Thankfully, this version of Planet Wisp actually gives you a pretty big chunk of natural land to explore at the beginning of the level, and my gosh, is it gorgeous! It's also pretty expansive too, for a Generations level anyway.
Unfortunately, that's only true for the first minute or so of the level. Once you reach the industrial area, it's all downhill. The level stays entirely 2D for the entire remainder, with one very brief exception, and it gets pretty confusing and labyrinthian at times, but thankfully not quite as bad as the classic level.
Well, on the bright side, at least you can't say that it's not a faithful recreation of the original Sonic Colors experience. Heck, I'd argue that this version of the level actually flows just a hair better than the original.
That's true, I suppose.
Also, the remix isn't as good as the original.
Fair.
You know, another side tangent, but I actually think it's really clever how they conceptualized Planet Wisp as a level.
What?
Conceptualized, not executed. Anyway, the whole theme of the Sonic series is nature versus industry, and Sonic Colors was one of the best examples of that. When you see Planet Wisp in its natural state in the intro cutscene, you see how beautiful it is and potentially want to visit it. When you eventually reach Planet Wisp, you see all the industrial factories that Eggman built all around it, destroying the landscape. You see how much he's destroyed the planet, and it makes you want to stop him. It is an amazing case of show, don't tell, and it's worked into the narrative seamlessly. It becomes even better in Sonic Generations, since you start out exploring the natural environment for a solid amount of time relative to the average length of a Generations level, allowing you to actually experience and enjoy the beautiful nature that Planet Wisp has to offer. Then you reach the industrial areas, and the level becomes a lot less enjoyable, both aesthetically and in terms of level design. It intentionally makes you hate Eggman's factories, and it does it beautifully!
That makes a lot of sense, actually.
Oh yeah, and the wisp they chose for modern Sonic is the orange rocket. It's fine, I suppose. No complaints here. I would have preferred the cyan laser, but orange rocket is fine. It was one of the better wisps.
Overall, kind of a low note for the regular levels to end on.
Thankfully, the bosses for the modern era are my absolute favorites in the game, and more than make up for the mediocrity of Planet Wisp.
Let's start with the mini-boss. Now, you may have noticed that the mini-bosses so far, Metal Sonic and Shadow, have been Sonic's rivals from their respective eras. Between 06, Unleashed, and Colors, there's only one character who could possibly fit the rival bill. Of all characters in the series, Sega had no choice but to choose Silver as the mini-boss for the modern era.
Appropriate that you're the one to introduce him, what with you being from the future and all.
So, we know that the original Silver fight from Sonic 06 was buggy and awkward as all get out. I mean, I never had a problem with it, but we all know the "it's no use" memes. Anyway, that fight wouldn't work at all in the modern engine, since it was an arena fight, while the modern engine is more attuned to streamlined level design. Instead, they designed this fight as an endless runner style, with Silver constantly throwing psychic waves and debris at you. Oh yeah, and this fight also takes place back in Crisis City, despite Sonic and Silver never actually meeting each other in Crisis City in Sonic 06.
Hey man, they were trying to separate themselves from the Soliana fight as much as they possibly could. Besides, Silver being on his home turf just makes this fight even better.
So the way you attack Silver is by waiting for him to pick up a whole bunch of debris, then you homing attack chain off the debris until he's in your homing attack range. Oh, also this fight occasionally switches into 2D for some of his attacks, but it never ruins the flow of the fight. In fact, I think it adds a great amount of variety. Overall, this fight is really enjoyable, and it's the only time Sega did a good job copy-pasting the Sonic Colors final boss format.
But wait, what?
Oh, you haven't made that connection yet? Here, let me show you. It's an endless runner type fight where you quick-step and or jump to dodge obstacles in his attacks. The only times you can hit him is when he stops attacking and waits a bunch of homing attack targets in your face. The only difference is that this isn't a final boss, the 2D segments do mix it up a bit, and also he has a big final attack that the actual final bosses are shockingly lacking in.
Wow, okay. I'll never look at this fight the same way ever again.
You're welcome.
Well, anyway, after that, shocking revelation, it's time to move on to the main boss of the modern era, the Egg Dragoon from Sonic Unleashed. So we make our way over to the boss gate and play. Holy crud, I recognize that guitar riff! Is that EGGMAN from Sonic Adventure 2 playing? That's awesome! Eggman's most iconic theme song managed to find its way into the game. I don't even care if it's not in the right era, this song slaps!
Honestly, yeah, they were gonna put it anywhere, it would make the most sense to put here, since this is the only one of 2 Eggman fights, the other of which is the Death Egg robot, which has its own iconic theme.
Yeah, so anyway, this fight is another endless runner type.
In this fight, Eggman fires fire and ice attacks at you, which you dodge by quick-stepping and jumping, much like the Silver fight.
The gimmick of this fight is that the Egg Dragoon actually has 2 cockpits, one in the top and one in the middle. Eggman switches between these 2 cockpits all throughout the fight, and the top cockpit is for fire attacks, and the lower cockpit is for ice attacks. What you need to do to attack him is to try to time your actions to line up with whichever cockpit he's in. If he's in the lower cockpit, then you get close enough and you can just jump and homing attack onto it. If he's in the upper cockpit, then you need to use a launcher ramp to get to an upper segment of grinding rails. After a brief and semi-difficult grind rail segment, you jump through a launcher ring and get a chance to homing attack the top cockpit. It's a really interesting fight with a bunch of variety and strategies for both attacking and for dodging.
Also, that's not all. Sometimes the fight switches to 2D, much like the Silver fight, and some of these 2D segments incorporate the wall jump of all moves into the attack pattern. There are also seemingly random times where the boss will go through some sort of portal and switch to a free-falling segment, very similar to the free-falling segments of the Source fight of Sonic Unleashed.
Honestly, I'm really impressed that they managed to make a fight that's able to be performed in the Boost gameplay engine that also stays true to the spirit of the original version's Werehog fight. It's overall a very fun and challenging fight, and is easily one of the best fights in the game, which is saying a lot considering how much I also love the Metal Sonic, Death Egg, Shadow, and Silver fights too.
So once this fight is done, we get a cutscene where Sonic and Eggman exchange a bit of banter as classic Sonic and the Tails watch. Modern Tails then makes an interesting point about how we already saw Eggman get kidnapped by the monster, and how his appearance here makes no sense. Then the monster swoops in again and kidnaps Eggman once again.
So you make your way over to the final boss gate, and you do some brief platforming to use the Chaos Emeralds to repair these giant broken cogs. Once you fix all 7, the boss gate opens. Sonic goes in, and it's revealed that, gasp, Dr. Eggman was the one responsible for the monster attacking Sonic's history.
But it's also revealed that Eggman isn't alone. He's accompanied by none other than Dr. Robotnik, aka Eggman's past self.
So even if you were able to predict that Eggman was behind the presence of the Time Eater, yeah, by the way, the monster is called the Time Eater, and from here on I'm going to refer to it by its real name, I highly doubt you would have predicted that Dr. Robotnik was here too. This is also why we didn't actually see Eggman in the cutscene after the Death Egg robot. He was completely enveloped by the time portal thing to hide the fact that it was actually Dr. Robotnik controlling it, rather than modern-day Dr. Eggman.
I mean, you probably could have picked up on it by the fact that the Death Egg robot does look like Dr. Robotnik. But I mean, it's also designed to look like Dr. Robotnik in its original appearance in Sonic 2, so maybe not.
So anyway, Eggman explains that he just so happened to magically stumble upon the Time Eater while he was drifting through space after Sonic Colors. Interestingly, this marks the first of very few times the stories of the modern era have any sort of continuity with each other since Sonic 06. Sonic 06 had subtle continuity with the previous games, but was overall intended to be a soft reboot. Sonic Unleashed had no continuity with past games in the slightest, neither did Sonic Colors, and now finally this game referenced Sonic Colors.
Interesting that Sonic Colors was also the last Sonic game you talked about on this channel. Was that planned?
Honestly, no. Anyway, Eggman continues to explain that he decided to go back in time to erase all of his past failures. He also went back in time to meet his past self to help him perfect the mechanization of the Time Eater. Well, he says in order to perfect it, I needed the help of somebody as smart as I am, so I'm just making assumptions as to what he meant by that. I mean, there's no way the Time Eater originally had 2 slots for 2 Eggmobiles in its forehead before Eggman found it.
Oh yeah, fun fact, this is the only game where Eggman takes control of a god and it doesn't betray him at the end of the game.
Oh yeah, good point.
Oh, also, this is another reason Crisis City's inclusion doesn't make any sense. Eggman had nothing to do with Crisis City, he never even saw it. That and the fact that it was erased from the canon, Eggman wouldn't consider it one of his past failures.
So anyway, after Eggman finishes his monologue, he attacks the Sonics, and the Sonics fight back, then the Sonics get knocked out. Then, like something straight out of an anime, all of Sonic's friends that you rescue throughout the game appear out of nowhere and start to cheer on for Sonic. Their cheering awakens the Chaos Emeralds, then the Sonics go super. Of course, now my biggest question is, why the crud aren't the friends helping? They're just as capable at fighting as Sonic, if not more so. Just goes to show how little Sega and the writers care about the side characters these days.
Oh yeah, speaking of the writers and what they've done to the continuity, I find it interesting how, depending on how you look at it, this is both the first and last time that Sonic has canonically gone super. It could easily be the first time because we don't know where in the timeline Classic Sonic comes from. If he's from before Sonic 2, then it would definitely be his first time, hence why I said depending on how you look at it. And it's Modern Sonic's last time going super, because this is the only game that Pontek and Graf wrote that involves the Chaos Emeralds in its story. Super Sonic is in the gameplay of Colors Lost World and Forces, but the Chaos Emeralds are never mentioned once in any of their stories.
So after going super, the final boss begins. And unfortunately, it's not all that great. Pretty much everyone is in agreement that this is a pretty pathetic note for the game to end on. So basically, Super Classic Sonic and Super Modern Sonic both chase after the Time Eater in what is essentially the time stream from Doctor Who.
One thing I do like about this fight is all the level debris floating around. There's at least one set piece from every level that recurs throughout this fight, like a little plateau from Green Hill, a chunk of a tower from Sky Sanctuary, chunks of buildings from City Escape, cars from Crisis City, among many other things. That's pretty much the only good thing about this fight, unfortunately.
This fight is spent flying through the time stream, chasing after the Time Eater. You slowly get closer and closer while the Time Eater constantly attacks you with warping arm attacks and homing shots. And no, that's not me making up names for these attacks. The game will not shut up about what attack is happening.
Looks like a homing shot.
Charge into the core. It's attacking!
Look out, Sonic. It's a warping arm attack.
It's attacking! Look out, Sonic! Looks like a warping arm attack! It's attacking! Sonic, watch out!
It's a warping arm attack. It's attacking. Look out, Sonic. It's a warping arm attack.
All throughout the fight, Sonic's friends are constantly radioing in, and they will always shout out what attack the boss is going to use. It is so freaking annoying. That looks like a homing shot. That shot will track you. Watch it, Sonic. It's a warping arm attack. Careful, Sonic. It's a warping arm attack. That shot looks like a homing shot. Be careful, Sonic. That looks like a homing shot. That looks like a homing shot. That looks like a homing shot. Careful, Sonic. That looks like a homing shot. Am I starting to annoy you? Does it sound like I'm repeating lines too much? Do you want me to shut up? Good, because that's exactly how it is in the actual fight.
Wow, that was spot on. Anyway, okay, so you guys know Omochao, right? The recurring tutorial robot that's in a decent number of Sonic games? Well, he's in this game, and you can turn him off if he annoys you too much. Unfortunately, even if you turn off Omochao, the thing that's meant to be a tutorial, the friends still won't shut up. This is the final freaking boss! This is the last place that you need a tutorial! Who thought this was a good idea?
Also, it doesn't even make sense that they can see what's happening. At the start of the fight, Tails says that he and his younger self modified some sort of transceiver that Sonic apparently had on hand, so they can communicate despite being in different dimensions. Communication is one thing, but how the heck are they seeing what's happening?
This whole thing is just so stupid. I guess they were trying to figure out some way to incorporate the other characters, since someone random says at the start of the fight, we're gonna help too. So I could maybe look past it if it only happened on the first playthrough and you had the ability to shut it off like the Omochao tutorials, but oh my gosh, it's so annoying that you can't.
And it's not even like the attacks are hard to identify. The Time Eater has 4 attacks. In the first half of the fight, it only uses the warping arm attack and the homing shots. For the warping arm attack, it sends its arm into one of its time portals and it appears in front of you like 2 seconds later. Oh gee, I wonder what it's doing sending its own arm through its own portal. I mean, come on, we even saw it do this very same thing in the cutscene right before the fight. How dumb do they think we are? Just let us see the attack for ourselves and react accordingly.
Okay, he seems to be getting a bit heated about this. Let me continue this by myself while he lets off some heat. So anyway, he does have a point though. The attacks really aren't that hard to identify. He already mentioned the warping arm attack, so I guess I'll mention the homing shot. The Time Eater sweeps its arm and 5 cone-shaped projectiles appear in front of it before flying towards you. It might not be very obvious at first, but they come so slowly that you can easily see that they're homing in on you as they fly. Anyway, once you hit the Time Eater twice, it gains an additional 2 attacks. First, it has a big shoop-to-whoop laser that can easily be dodged by switching Sonics. Then finally, it has a time-slowing attack that you have no way of avoiding and is very annoying to deal with. And yes, the friends shout at you about these attacks too, especially the time-slowing attack. Okay, so for the laser, a friend will shout, "A laser!" or "Watch out for that laser!" or something along those lines, so it comes and goes very quickly. Unfortunately, the time-slowing attack is where the friends get a bit too invested.
Looks like time energy is building up!
Time's going to slow down!
The time flow will be restored!
Okay, so the Time Eater swirls its arms around in a circular motion, which forms something that looks like an analog clock. So I guess that can tip off the friends that it's a time-slowing attack. What's weird is that the friends also know exactly when the time-slowing attack ends, and they feel the need to urgently shout it at you as it's ending. Why are they so urgent about it? It's a good thing the time is going back to normal. These voice lines are easily the most annoying because they make the least sense. Why are they in normal time when everything else is supposed to be slowed down? How do they know exactly when time is returning to normal? Why are they so urgent in their delivery when time returning to normal is a good thing? Yeah, overall, the friends' interference in this fight was nothing but a bad idea, and really ruins this final boss.
Okay, I'm back.
Did you get all that built-up fire out of your system?
Yeah. By the way, you're out of fireplace logs. You might want to stock up on them for the future for when you want to blow off some heat yourself.
Oh right, because Typhlosion naturally have a bit of a rage issue. Noted.
So anyway, where were we?
Well, I just made the concluding comments about the characters' interruptions in the fight. We can talk about the fight itself now.
Oh, good. So yeah, basically, the Supersonics chase after the Time Eater and avoid the attacks thrown at them. They slowly get closer and closer until they eventually manage to hit its core. Unfortunately, much like the Shadow fight, this game is very stingy with when it lets you actually hit the target, often leading to lots of awkward waiting around for Sonic to finally decide to hit the core.
Once 3 hits have been dealt, the Time Eater produces a giant wall of what appears to be lava in front of it, and the Sonics combine their power to ram straight through it and deal the final blow to the core.
Also, the Sonic 4 theme starts playing as this final blow is dealt. What? That's an oddly specific reference.
So then Sonic ends up back at his birthday party alongside Classic Sonic, then all of Sonic's friends reappear and celebrate. Then we get an admittedly pretty hilarious joke about rain collection from the Tails.
He collects how many? Wow, where Where does somebody put all those gold rings? You know what? I don't know. I keep forgetting to ask.
Then Classic Sonic shows off that he's starting to learn the homing attack, then a portal opens out of nowhere and the classic characters return to their time forever.
Forever!
Then we get a medley of all this game's level themes as the credits roll, which is a nice little tribute to the way the Genesis games always ended, complete with the medley beginning with the same string of notes as the Sonic 1 medley. Then the credits end with a crowd cheering Sonic a happy birthday.
After the credits roll, we see Eggman and Robotnik stuck in the time void, arguing with each other about how to return to the real world.
And to this day, we have no idea how they managed to return and start the events of Sonic Lost World and Mania.
So that was Sonic Generations, my absolute favorite game of all time! It's got a couple rocky levels, but overall, I think it is a perfect tribute to the series as a whole.
Wait a minute, we're not done here yet!
We're not?
No, there's so much more we could talk about with this game.
But we've already talked about how the game progresses beginning to end. That's how my game reviews always go.
That's true, but I mean, come on, this is our favorite game of all time. We gotta really sell why we love it so much, and that includes talking about all the minor stuff that even you and I frequently overlook while playing it.
Okay, if you say so. So first of all, there's the skill shop. Each time you finish a level, even a side mission, you get a certain number of points. Those points can be spent at the skill shop at the far left of the hub world. You use the points to buy certain perks for each Sonic, such as the elemental shields, the homing attack, a quicker stop, and more for Classic Sonic, and a faster homing attack, a bigger boost meter, and a free early boost for the start of any level, among many other things for modern Sonic. You can mix and match these skills nearly to your heart's content, within reason since there is a limit on how much you can stack together.
There you go, keep it up.
Alright. Let's see. Minor stuff that I frequently overlook. Oh, the missions! I briefly mentioned them before, since beating 3 per era is necessary for unlocking the major bosses, but now seems like a great time to go into a lot more detail about them. First of all, these missions often involve Sonic's friends, using their abilities and iconic character traits to help Sonic through modified levels. You can treasure hunt with Knuckles, fly with Tails, play a rhythm game with Vector, get rings from Cream and her small army of Chow, seduce enemies into letting their guard down with Rouge, what the heck? Jump higher with the use of Amy's hammer, race Tails who's flying in the tornado, race Knuckles who can take shortcuts by burrowing in the ground, race Amy who can apparently use her hammer to levitate, race against another Sonic who looks and acts like a Mario Kart developer ghost. Wow, there's a lot of races in these missions.
I mean, did you expect any different? Why wouldn't Sonic want to race his friends?
Of course, not every mission involves Sonic's friends. Some of them involve the unlockable skills from the skill shop mentioned earlier. In fact, these missions are how you unlock said unlockable skills, and they are excellent at showing you how to use them. For example, in the missions that involve Classic Sonic's elemental shields, the level design has been cleverly tweaked to a point where you can only traverse by using them.
Then there are missions that involve the level gimmicks to a much more prominent extent. There's a classic Green Hill mission where there's a bunch of swinging platforms. There's a classic City Escape mission that involves getting on the skateboard over and over again. There's a modern Green Hill mission where you need to traverse through a level made mostly of crumbling platforms. There's a decent amount of variety here.
Oh, and this isn't even mentioning the soundtracks for these missions. Now, often these missions just default to the music of the levels they're based on. However, when they don't do that, they have some of the best remixes in the entire soundtrack. There's only 4 of them, but my gosh, they're from some of the most obscure corners of the Sonic franchise, which is yet another detail that shows the developer's passion for Sonic's history. I'm gonna list them in my personal opinion from most expected to least expected. First of all, there's a remix of Balloon Park from Sonic 3's multiplayer. Remember how I said Classic City Escape was remixed to sound like a Sonic 3 multiplayer level? Yeah, this one is a straight up remix of a Sonic 3 multiplayer level, and the way it's instrumented gives off some serious Twinkle Park from Sonic Adventure vibes. It's like a love letter to Sonic 3 and Sonic Adventure all in one song! Next is a remix of the Saturn version of the Sonic 3D Blast title theme. Yeah, it's pretty neat.
It sounds a lot like the original, but with just a bit more love and nostalgic vibes to it. After that is the remix of Supersonic Racing from Sonic R, also on the Sega Saturn. This one's my favorite of the mission remixes. My favorite thing about this remix is easily the sound clips found all throughout the remix. You see, what they did was, they took sound bites of the Saturn commercials and spread them all throughout the song, making not only a lovely remix of this semi-obscure, semi-iconic song, but also a beautiful homage to the Saturn itself.
No, if only the Saturn had a proper Sonic game on it.
I have arranged for you to meet my
Introducing Sega Saturn.
We are 5 years away from entering the 21st century. All ready for the future.
Everybody supersonic racing. Gotta keep your feet right on the ground. When you're supersonic racing, there's no time to look around.
Lastly, easily the most obscure source of any of these remixes is Emerald Beach from Sonic Battle! Like, what? Of all sources to pull music from for a main series game, especially one that's specifically a celebration of the main series history, the random 2.5D Smash Bros. Clone on the Game Boy Advance that stars Sonic characters is one of the last places you'd expect. Like, wow! They really dug deep into the series history for this game.
Then the reward for finishing the missions is another thing that makes this game amazing.
Okay, so once you beat a mission, a bell will appear above its level gate. If you ring the bell, a musical note will appear and start counting down as it floats around the hub. If you manage to catch it before the counter reaches 0, then you unlock even more songs! These songs come from everywhere in the series, and I mean everywhere! These songs range from obvious picks of songs from levels of each of the main series games that didn't make it into this game, all the way to the spin-offs. There's the theme songs from each Sonic Riders game, yes, even free riders. There's songs from the Advanced Trilogy and the Rush Duology. There's I Am All of Me from Shadow the Hedgehog. There's the themes of Sonic and the Secret Rings and Sonic and the Black Knight. And even Sonic Rivals 1 and 2!
Now, you might think that this is all just a neat feature that lets you listen to the series' best songs. Of course, that is true, but what's even better is that you can choose to listen to any of these songs in any of the levels as you play. You can listen to Toxic Case from Sonic Spinball and Chemical Plant. You can listen to Route 99 from Sonic Advance 3 and Speed Highway. You can listen to Right There, Right On from Sonic Rush and Green Hill. You can listen to Splash Hill in Green Hill, you know, if you wanted to. The choice is yours! And I gotta say, the theme for Green Forest from Sonic Adventure 2 fits the Shadow Boss fight shockingly well. Here, watch this. This is completely unedited. Like, wow, there is no way that was planned. That is a hilarious coincidence.
Now, as we said before, this isn't just an in-level thing. You can listen to these songs all on their own by going all the way to the far left of the hub world and finding the collection room. This room contains the aforementioned unlockable soundtrack, character bios, which are self-explanatory, the game's cutscenes, which are also self-explanatory, and finally, concept art!
The concept art isn't something you have just from the get-go, however. Much like the unlockable soundtrack, you need to actually play the game to find them.
You see, spread all throughout each of the main levels are 5 red star rings, returning from Sonic Colors. Some of these red rings are found on the main paths, some of them are found on the faster paths, and some of them are found on the slower paths. These levels are pretty big, and you gotta search them thoroughly to find them. Also, as I said, some of them are hidden on the fastest paths, so finding them actually makes you better at playing the game since you'll learn how to find the quickest paths.
Also, if you're having trouble finding any of the red rings, you can talk to the friend standing outside of each level and they'll tell you where to look. That sure is helpful.
So, back to the concept art. This stuff isn't just from this game, it's from the entire series!
If I had a nickel for every time we say the word series.
We are saying that a lot, aren't we? Anyway, to avoid sounding like a broken record about the developer's passion, I'm just gonna say that showing the concept art for the entire series is pretty neat.
But wait, there's more! If you're standing in the collection room and you hold the select button, or whatever the PlayStation equivalent is, you get sent to a secret room where you can put in secret codes to view statues of characters and enemies seen all throughout the game. Okay, let's see, what else?
Oh! This game has easily the most fair ranking system in the entire series!
There's another nickel.
So in every other game, the rank you get at the end of any given level is based on the amount of points you score, depending on how many enemies you defeat, how many rings you grab, how quickly you beat the level, among other things. Getting the best ranks are really difficult in the other games, most infamously in Sonic Adventure 2, where the time bonuses needed often contradict the amount of enemies and rings you need to get. Thankfully, in this game, they threw that system completely out the window in favor of a system that ranks you pretty much entirely on your level completion time, incentivizing speed above all else. Also, finishing the level without dying brings your rank up by another letter grade, which is how you get the best rank possible, S ranks. Incentivizing speed and rewarding flawless runs really invites replay value that fits perfectly within the game's design.
Alright, I think that's everything.
Hold it! There's still a whole other thing this game has to offer!
What could we possibly be missing? We talk about the missions, the red rings, the soundtrack, the secret soundtrack, the collection room, the ranking system. What could we possibly be missing? The Casino Night Pinball DLC?
What? No! It's like the most pointless DLC I've ever seen in any game ever! Such a shame, that was the only DLC officially released for this game.
Then what else is there?
Well, if you platform through the missions above Green Hill, you might notice a very familiar black box in the middle.
Oh, right! The Sega Genesis!
Yep, that's right! Located just above Green Hill is a Sega Genesis with a copy of Sonic 1 plugged into it. If you go to the skills shop, you'll find an item called the Sega Genesis controller. If you buy it, you can play it. It's the entire original Genesis version of Sonic 1, completely playable in this game. You get an entire extra classic game in this game!
Yeah, what a great way to wrap up this game. Ending with the beginning. Very appropriate for this game about celebrating the past.
Also a great way to end off the video! So, in conclusion, Sonic Generations is my favorite game of all time, and for good reason.
It's a beautiful celebration of the series start to finish, from the obvious to the obscure.
It controls excellently, there's tons of replay value and side content, it has fan service out the wazoo, and you can just feel the passion the developers had every step of the way.
If you're a fan of Sonic from any era, you're definitely going to find something in here for you.
And even if you're not a Sonic fan, this game is an excellent entry point to the series, since it's essentially a collection of the best the series has to offer. So for a final conclusion, you will not regret playing this game.
Well, that was fun.
Yeah, it was. It felt great to finally talk about my favorite game of all time.
Yeah, this was a great blast from the past.
Oh yeah, speaking of which, how are we going to get you back to your own time?
Huh? Oh, I don't know. I don't even know how I got here.
What? You don't?
Nope.
So, what you're saying is, you're stuck here.
That's what it looks like.
So, like, I'm stuck with you then?
Yup. Say, got any Corsola Cola? I'm parched.
What? Hey, get back here!
Nope, I'm staying here. X cubed plus X squared plus X.
What? What the heck was that?
Oh, right, that's not a meme yet, is it?
What? An exponential function is a meme in the future? How the heck did that happen?
Well, you know what they say about entertainment.
In the future, entertainment will be randomly generated?
Yup, randomly generated.
Well, maybe that can become a running gag on this channel to ensure that that meme becomes a thing. Speaking of which, you're not gonna stay around here and become a recurring character, are you?
Oh, you know I am. This voice is fun to do, and I'm gonna keep finding excuses to use it.
Will you stop breaking the fourth wall already?